Brilliant, thank you, Tim. So this is kind of a Q&A session. Hi guys, how you doing? Wow, that is the best reception I've ever had. So yeah, we're going to have a bit of a chit chat. There are some slides to just kind of back up what the topics we're talking about are. I'm probably not going to hold the handheld, so hopefully you can hear me all right. I'm mic'd up for the guys online. So yeah, thank you so much. Tiny bit about myself. I work for a technology and disability charity called AbilityNet, have done for nearly 30 years now. And obviously technology has changed a massive amount in that time. And so I'm really pleased to be able to talk to you guys about how important inclusive design, accessibility, and particularly AI is in this fast-changing world, but what a game changer it is, not just for disabled people, but actually for every user. So we're hopefully going to be covering those areas in some detail over the next sort of 40, 45 minutes, and then we'll open it up to questions from you guys as well. So yeah, I'm going to be following my notes on my phone here, so that's why I'm very rudely got one ear in. So if I get an even more vacant look for half a second, it's because I'm listening to the next thing that I'm going to be talking about. So yeah, apologies for that. So yeah, we're basically going to be talking about why it's important now. We'll explore the business benefits, legal duties, inclusive design principles, and the role of AI. Bless you. So we move on to the next slide.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, should we talk about the carrots and sticks?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about the carrots then. First of all, I'm assuming that people kind of know what we mean when we say carrots and sticks, the benefits and the risks associated with doing things inclusively or not, as the case may be. So as I intimated a moment ago, if you do things in an accessible, inclusive way, then you're going to be opening it up to millions more potential users. So any ideas how many people in the UK have a registered disability? So this is potentially not everybody that needs accessibility, because there are loads of people that don't have a diagnosis, maybe age is, arthritis, that kind of thing, but they're not, having a recognized diagnosed disability and getting benefits and that sort of thing. Put your hands up if you think it's 10 million in the UK.
No hands, but just for clarity, the overall population of the UK is currently around 70 million. So that's the range of numbers you're dealing with. So no hands for 10 million. So
okay. Actually, put all your hands up if you think it's more than 15.
Yeah.
Keep your hands up if you think it's more than 20 million.
Yeah, still most of the hands.
So a third of the population, 25.
Oh, now we're down to maybe only 10 now.
Okay. It's around 25, 26. So thank you so much. You guys can give yourself a pat on the back or get somebody else to do it for you. So yeah, in the world, it's 15%. You might have heard of the hashtag #WeThe15. It's about disabled people being involved. So don't design or build things for disabled people. Ideally, get them involved. The kind of meme is nothing about us without us. So yeah, 15% globally, although I think that's a massive underestimate. Here in the UK, it's what, nearly a quarter of people with a registered disability, and then millions more that will benefit from inclusive design. So, let me just, sorry, just getting to where I am. So, there's been some research done, you may or may not have heard of it, probably not, called the Click Away Pound, and it was done by the Shaw Trust, another disability charity, and they surveyed thousands and thousands of people, both who had a disability and not. And in the not, there will obviously be people for whom the things we're going to talk about are still important. But of the people who said they had accessibility requirements, 76% of them said that as soon as they encounter inaccessibility on a website or app where there are other options, they immediately click away, as they called it. The click away pound, 76% of people. So you're going to be disenfranchising an awful lot of your potential customer base if you aren't doing things in an inclusive way. So that's really, really important. And the disposable income in the UK is estimated of disabled people and their families. So this isn't like full income, total income. This is disposable income, money to spend is 280 billion pounds, which sounds a lot, but if you divide it by the 25 million, then it's what, less than 10k or around 10k. So yeah, that makes sense, doesn't it? Of disabled people, a quarter of the population or more, and their families have money to spend, and they will instantly go away as soon as they have trouble on your websites or apps. It improves usability for everyone, and we're going to go on to talk about that on the next slide or so. And I cannot overemphasize that enough, so that's why we've given it a whole section to talk about. It actually improves usability and inclusion for every single one of your users. Let's talk about brand. So brand is hugely important. We know about ESG, used to be CSR, didn't it? It's now got the E for environment. Social and governance. So it's really, really important to have a brand that is seen to be, and ideally is, doing things in an inclusive way, caring about the environment, about their employees, about their customers, about their good governance, that sort of thing. And inclusion, smack in the middle of that. Really, really important. So brand is absolutely huge, and you can go both ways with regards to the experience that people have. Obviously, you want to have good UX, you want to have good customer support, ideally, whether that's an expert chatbot, which we'll talk about later, or humans or whatever. But you care about your brand and your customers in so many ways, but accessibility is going to impact 25% of them, a quarter of them. So that's super, super important. I'm using an iPhone here, and regardless of what you think about iPhones, probably there's more Android users here because you guys are devs. So you like choice. You don't want to be walled in. On principle, you probably don't like iPhones. You don't like Apple. But when the iPhone revolution happened in 2007, it was really soon after that Apple built in a screen reader. So blind people like myself were in. We were in on the party when it came to mobile. And boy, has it come far, hasn't it? It's the, if you ask Google, over 65% of traffic to any given website on any given day is from mobile. So we're in a mobile-first world, absolutely. And that's why you guys care about responsive design, all that sort of thing. So yeah, we're living in a mobile-first world, and Apple is largely, has played a massive part in that. And if they hadn't prioritized accessibility right from very near the start, it was in the 3GS, actually, when it first came out, the screen reader. Who knows? Maybe Android wouldn't have seen the need either, and blind people and many other people who require those accessibility settings would not be able to be an active member of a mobile-first world either. So I really can't overemphasize that enough. I will always be an Apple fanboy. Whatever you think about them, they are absolutely a gift for disabled people. When the Vision Pros came out, there's not going to be anything in there for blind people. There is. There absolutely is. There's VoiceOver on there, just like there is on iOS. And we know that we'll never be left out of the party. So for me, everything speaks. As a blind person, my computer speaks, my phone speaks, my watch speaks, my glasses speak. Now, admittedly, these aren't Apple. I haven't got 3.5K for the Vision Pro, and I don't want people to think that I'm scuba diving. So these are the Meta Pros. Does anyone, the Meta, these are the Ray-Bans, yeah? Heard one, two, yeah, okay. So they're gonna connect, sometimes they connect quick, sometimes they connect slow. Are you gonna wake up, Mr. Ray-Bans? So, let's see, hey Meta. Oh, it's telling me the battery. Okay. Hey Meta, look and tell me how scruffily dressed this audience is.
The audience appears to be dressed in casual attire, with some people wearing jeans and others wearing more formal clothing.
I don't know if you heard that. With some people wearing jeans and other more formal attire. So yeah, so basically I could wear these out and about. I could ask if there are any obstacles on the pavement in front of me, what I'm passing, where the door is. It knows obviously about doors and stuff. Now this is Llama, so obviously it's not like ChatGPT 5 or Claude, but it's certainly better than nothing. And there's an arms race with AI, as you know, so it's only going to get better. So yeah, the Meta Ray-Bans have a play later if you want to, over lunch. Massively important. And as a blind person, I probably use the camera on my phone and now on my glasses more than you guys do, unless you're heavily into selfies. Anyone admit to being heavily into selfies?
No, what Meta didn't tell you is what they all look like as well. So that's, that's a blessing.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a blessing.
Stick to that back-facing camera, guys. So yeah, really, just get into the right place. Heavily use my camera because, you know, when your own pair of eyes don't work, to have a working, eye with some AI behind it, whether it's in your glasses or on your phone, there are apps out there that can help me leverage the power of AI to, read barcodes and QR codes on packages, or just read the text on them, read my mail, tell me where I am. Obviously there are apps for GPS and that sort of thing as well. So really important. Okay. So let's talk about the sticks then. So yeah, I just had a brief detour onto how much I love Apple and how much it has meant to me. Without there being accessibility in, Windows, for example, Mac OS, and other devices, I wouldn't be in a job. I'd be one of the 73% of people with a vision impairment, and that's all ranges of vision, not just completely blind, in the UK that are still out of work. So if you have anything to do with HR, if you're going out with the HR head or whatever in your company, bend their ear about what percentage of disabled people they are recruiting, because we don't have targets in this country, and it's still pitifully low. And they've got a lot to offer. And there is solid research that shows that more diverse companies, workforces, are happier, healthier, and that's as a whole. It has a knock-on effect. And they produce more inclusive products and services. So, those are all the carrots. Let's talk about the sticks. So we aren't as litigious here in the UK as in the US, for example, where the laws for compliant, accessible websites and apps are, brought into bear by civil claims, but also class actions, which is where a lot of disabled people get together under the auspices of a disability charity, or like the equivalent of the RNIB over there, for example. But nevertheless, there are definite legal risks here in the UK, and it is a legal requirement. So how many people have heard of WCAG?
Yeah.
Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. Good, I'm really pleased about that, because yeah, you probably know it's already a legal requirement. There are defined guidelines out there, really important, and hopefully by the end of this session, you'll go away thinking, yeah, okay, if I'm not up to speed with this already, I want to be that person. I want to be the person that creates better products, and I'm going to go and look at where those guidelines are and make sure that our teams know about them and are building them into their documentation, etc., which we will talk about. We'll talk about embedding a mature approach later on. So yeah, lawsuits definitely happening here in the UK. You may not hear about them because 90+% of them settle out of court. So the companies settle. They don't want to go through the whole, they know they're banged to rights, they know they aren't compliant, and so they just pay. So, but does that mean that they then go ahead and fix things? Not always, which is a shame. So definitely losing contracts, because in procurement, they know it's a legal requirement, so what do they do? They ask for accessibility. How many of you have either won or lost tenders because accessibility was stipulated, was a requirement? Any hands?
No, actually.
No? Okay. Well, it will be there in contracts. It will be there in tenders. You will have to prove that you will deliver that product to compliance standards. And increasingly, companies are saying, okay, we don't believe you, show us evidence. And so you'll have to show them a recent project or deliverable that was similar enough to what they want you to deliver, and you need to show them that it's inclusive, and they will check. So you will absolutely win or lose contracts, tenders, based on accessibility and how good your credentials are in that department. So that's really important as well. Has anyone heard about the European Accessibility Act?
Yes, lots of nodding here.
Yeah? Okay. Yeah. It's so important, we're going to put a whole slide on it. So if we go on to the next slide.
Yes, there it is. Yeah.
Cool. So the EAA, you might say, well, we're not in Europe, so does it apply to us? Kind of. Although some of you are.
A lot, yeah, there's a lot of Europeans here, so it
Love you
definitely
guys.
will apply to you.
What on earth were they thinking about Brexit? What on earth were they thinking? So, in the EAA, it calls out certain sectors: ICT, banking, e-commerce, transport. So there are lots of sectors that are definitely included, but basically it's e-commerce, that covers it all, pretty much, doesn't it? So any transactional websites across any sector, but there seems to be a particular onus on certain sectors that they will be singled out first. Because unlike any other legislation to date, this one will be, well, not any other, I'll talk about that in a sec, or someone will pick me up on it, but the EAA has a proactive requirement. So some of you might know about PSBAR here in the UK, which is a public sector one. You might know about WAD, the Web Accessibility Directive, which is public sector facing in Europe. But the EAA is covering every other sector, every other company. So it's the biggie guys, and the deadline for it whizzed by recently. So you're well and truly in this up to your necks if you don't know how compliant you are. If you guys are on the ground level, which you are, and you don't know how compliant you are, it means you're not. Okay, so for anyone in the room is wondering how compliant are we, you're not. I can guarantee it because you guys would be actively involved. So, as well as European companies, it applies to any UK companies who either vend to Europe in any way, products, services, digital products and services, although it does cover physical things like kiosks and stuff like that. But anyone who has any supply chain from Europe or vending chain to Europe. So all your suppliers downline from you, you're responsible for because they supply to you. So yeah, even if you're a UK-based company, you are liable under the EAA if you have anyone in the chain up or down and any European customers as well. So yeah, really, really important. You might have heard about an accessibility statement. You know, our website's got to have an accessibility statement. And that's that, here in the UK anyway, that's the public sector thing kicking in. And a lot of people are realizing that, you know, having an accessibility statement saying how compliant our website is, for example, and where it falls short is a requirement. And it has been if you were public sector. And a lot of other commercial websites have been following suit. Under the EAA, that goes a lot further. So a simple accessibility statement is absolutely not enough. There's loads of documentation that you need to evidence to be EAA compliant, and they include standards that you comply with. So you need to say which standards you comply with. So under websites, it will be WCAG, EN 301549. I don't know if people have heard of that one. So that's like the broad European standard for accessibility, and it covers more than the websites as well. But there are definite standards that you need to comply with, and your websites need to say exactly where they are on compliance, which is kind of what we were talking about a moment ago. But you need to also document internally test results evidencing that compliance level. So you need to have all of that available because the local governments, whichever country you're in, because they've almost all embedded this EAA into domestic law, will be knocking on your door. There is a requirement for a proactive monitoring and fining. So they'll be knocking on your door and you need to have this suite of documentation ready. So, you know, if that's you, then start sweating. If it's somebody else in your organization, then start talking and make sure that they're on this page as well. Evidence of processes for monitoring and maintaining accessibility. So you've also got to show that not only where you are today, but if you're not fully compliant, where your journey is, and that will be a huge mitigating factor. That will really help where you've got a roadmap and you're showing, okay, we're 6 months into this roadmap that we've got, and we've hit all our targets so far, and okay, we might not be compliant until mid-27, but we're on our way. That will be a huge benefit if people come knocking on your door, because it's showing that you're committed, you're resourcing it, and you're on your journey and you're hitting your roadmap milestones. How complaints and feedback will be handled. So, you know, it goes back to this customer value that you're providing. There's no better source of accessibility input than your customers. So really make sure that you are you are getting good channels for your customers. They are being heard, they're being responded to, and that you've documented how that is all working. So yeah, that's pretty much the main areas of documentation. So yeah, just thought I'd get those on the table. This is all well documented, by the way. If you just search for EAA, then you'll get the full picture, but I thought it was really important to lay it on the line. Practical next steps. If you're unsure, in any way after everything that I've said, then just search for AbilityNet, have a look at the resources on our website, or give us a bell on our, drop us an email or give us a call. Our advice and information team will be able to step you through it. And we do have some services that could help, which we'll talk about right at the end. But yeah, if you feel like this is bigger than you or your team can handle, then bend our ear and we'll certainly be able to help. We're a charity. Our goal is to make you guys all experts so that we can disappear and retire. That's what I'd like to do anyway.
You seem a lot less happy about the stick section of the talk than the carrot section of the talk.
Yeah, I mean, we are going to, I think a lot of what we're going to come onto is carrots.
Yes.
So we've kind of done the nasty taste part. So yeah, so talk to us if you're not sure, but absolutely start working on that suite of documentation. That's absolutely key. Even if you're not very sure about compliance, or that you're far away from it, documenting where you are and those other things I mentioned, absolutely key. Okay. Should we nip on to the next one?
Yeah, absolutely. Can I just actually ask a question? So the documentation, is that a company level documentation, or is that on a specific per project basis, or is it both?
Yeah, I would say both, because some of it touches on governance, which is obviously at a company level. But if they come to you about a website or an app or a digital service, then you just need to be able to provide the documentation to that. Yes. Particular, infringement or whatever it is, query that they have. So, but I mean, we could talk about leadership. Leadership is so important, and we might talk about embedding maturity in a minute. But yeah, getting leadership involved and getting buy-in from the top and getting sufficient support is really important. So I would see it as part of the ESG documentation that you have, and monitoring, ongoing monitoring. So yeah, don't feel like this is a job on your shoulders. It absolutely isn't. Arguably, it's at a corporate level. So unless you're a very small team, in which case, like you're what we would call a SME, small to medium enterprise. If there's only 3 of you, then yeah, it's on you. Okay. Next slide.
Yes, there we go.
Okay.
There's a few people have just nodded at that.
Hugo. Down. Okay. So inclusive design, let's talk about that. This is about designing for a range of contexts. It's not just for disabled people, absolutely. So here we've got an infographic. This is Microsoft's infographic. Have you ever seen this? They've put this out for situational, temporary, permanent, and it's basically to say that accessibility and inclusive design isn't just for disabled people, okay? So we've got a number of things here. So permanent, can't talk, would be someone like myself who's blind all the time. That's not going to change. And then we've got temporary, broken arm, for example, situational, glare on a screen, sunny day, or noisy cafe, that sort of thing. I'm sure you guys have experienced that sort of thing. You're all sliding up and down the scale or the sort of spectrum of impairment, shall we say, or inclusive needs on an almost minute-by-minute basis. So I would guarantee that every single one of you in the room today has used your phone one-handed today, even if you're not aware of it, because you whip it out, you do this, or maybe you've got a cup of coffee in the other hand, whatever it might be. And for that few seconds or minutes, you're in exactly the same position as someone with an essential tremor or Parkinson's or arthritis, that sort of thing. And people who are familiar with the accessibility guidelines will know, when it comes to tappable areas, say, on mobile, the kind of Rolls-Royce requirement is less than 44 by 44 px and good white space between controls. Apple doesn't always abide by this. I'm not sure about Android. But anyway, generally speaking, you want to separate tappable areas. You want to make them a decent size, the target. And that will help people with a motor impairment, and equally it'll have helped you guys today on apps that have obeyed those basic rules and you haven't got lots of tiny target areas all squashed up together. So, that kind of thing. As I mentioned, small sheet of shiny glass on a sunny day. Color contrast, if it's, sufficient, and I don't know how many of you use iOS 26 and have had to reduce transparency, but anyway, Apple come and go when it comes to, their fads and whether design is over, form over function, but anyway. So yeah, a small sheet of shiny reflective glass on a sunny day, you're in exactly the same position. You need the same color contrast requirements as somebody with a vision impairment 24/7, et cetera, et cetera. I could go on and on. You know, this is so important, and hopefully you get the idea that if you make things inclusive, you're not just going to be hitting that 25 million in the UK that absolutely definitely need one or more of those accessibility criteria complied with, but you're going to be making it much more usable for everyone. And my kind of nutshell summary would be, if it's extremely usable, then it's going to be usable for people with, you know, if it's inclusive, it's going to be usable for people with more extreme needs, but it's going to be extremely usable for people that don't. And maybe they do sometimes during the day. So yeah, this is absolutely key. You guys, you know, any UX people? Feel very...
Yeah,
yeah,
no, 2 or 3.
okay.
They're all very shy today.
Some of them probably have like 8 hats on. Anyway, so yeah, you know, UX, they're super proud people and they do a really good job most of the time. So yeah, be proud of doing things in an inclusive way as well. You might think, well, isn't that going to, you know, straitjacket us? Isn't it going to make us really constrained in what we could do? Absolutely not. There's no fundamental friction between good inclusive design and good sexy design. It doesn't have to be plain. It doesn't have to be dumbed down. In fact, if anything, you can feel extra proud because you're doing things in a way that is a little bit more innovative, because you achieve the look you want, the style, the effect that you want within those guidelines, and it becomes really usable for everyone. Obviously, if you've got clients who have a totally inaccessible color palette that they want you to work with, then you've got a little bit of a problem there. So if we move on to the next slide. Oh, let me just tell you some other examples. So captions, you know, absolutely, they are for deaf people, but they also help people who are, you know, in that noisy cafe, the subtitles on screens in bars and stations and that sort of thing, and also students that are watching YouTube videos under the desk in a lecture with the sound off, you know, that kind of thing. Helps a lot of people. Mentioned color contrast. Yeah, so basically, as I mentioned before, take it as a matter of pride that you're going to do things in a way that will make it extremely usable for everyone and won't lock some people out. Next slide.
Yes, okay, we're there.
Okay, so let's quickly talk about embedding maturity within an organization. So AbilityNet, since 2003, when it became clear in the UK that digital was covered under the disability legislation, the DDA, up until they brought out this kind of appendix to it, it wasn't clear that digital was covered, but then, yep, it absolutely is. Ever since then, companies have been coming to AbilityNet saying, what on earth do we need to do? And companies have got a lot more with the program these days. They appreciate the carrots, the brand value, you know, doing things for the right reasons, not just for cynical compliance reasons. One thing that we've found over the years is that we are like the outsourced accessibility arm of, you know, whoever it might be, name big client in there. But so yeah, we want to move away from that. Like I mentioned before, ideally the goal of every charity is that the problem goes away and that they can be, you know, dissolved and go home. Because, you know, in this case, all companies are prioritizing and practicing inclusive design without our involvement. So to that end, you've probably heard of maturity models. We created our own digital accessibility maturity model called the DAM, or acronym. And so this is basically a way, and you can download this from our website. If you just search for DAM, AbilityNet DAM, then you can download the pack. What does it do? Well, it shines a light in every dusty, cobwebby corner of your organization. So how well are your teams trained? How well are they resourced? How much accessibility is built into the products that you're, you know, the CMS or the component libraries, the style guides? How much is inclusion factored in so that you guys aren't having to do this horrible retrofitting? How many of you have tried to bolt on accessibility at the end, at UAT?
Yes, yeah.
And that's because you know it has to be done, but your day job doesn't build it in. So you're doing it at the end. How many of you will admit that at the 11th hour, just before go live, you couldn't bolt it on? so it went live anyway.
Just a few hands there as well, yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. So this is about shifting left, making sure that everybody knows what they're doing, they've got the right tools, they've got the right support, and this is where I mentioned leadership before. So the DAM has several dimensions to it. Vision is the first one, and that basically talks about the fact that, within your organization you've got the right vision from a digital point of view, digital inclusion point of view. So HSBC, our biggest customer, theirs is to be the world's most digitally accessible bank. Simple vision statement, half a dozen words. And underneath that, everything hangs off that. So everything from documentation around the EAA stuff, resourcing, ideally a centralized budget so that you're not having to fight on a departmental or even team basis to get the right budget. And everyone knows what they're doing. So there's the right training in place, there's the right documentation. Other ones to do with procurement, do not buy in accessibility. I mentioned before, make sure that you're asking the right questions if you're procuring yourselves, because you should be being asked the right questions, particularly if you're in Europe now that the EAA has really kind of got up to speed. So yeah, really, really important. So it will reduce ongoing costs. So if you bolt it on, it's going to be more expensive. Research has shown on average between 2 and 5% extra spend to make things truly inclusive, because it obviously is extra work. If you've got the right guidelines, the right toolkit, then you'll be there or thereabouts, but you still need to ideally get end users, diverse end users involved. You might be aware of what personas you use within your organization. Are they diverse enough? Okay, they'll cover different demographics, but do they cover impairments as well? So there's so many things that once in place, the additional work to get things fully signed off as inclusive, 2 to 5%. So, and the cost benefits, the increased income, all that sort of thing, far outweigh that. So yeah, make sure it's business as usual rather than constantly firefighting, which, if you know about accessibility and care about it, you might still be at that firefighting stage. Some of you might be blissfully unaware about accessibility altogether, in which case, there'll be other issues that we talked about earlier. Go on to the next slide.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, if people are itching for questions, would you rather say now or kind of talk, we can cover them at the end? I'm nearly done, as far as slides are concerned.
Let's put a little push on to the end, and then we can have a bit of a chat after.
Push on. Okay, so AI. Obviously AI. Got to talk about AI. How many of you use it every day?
Yeah, every hand.
Yeah, okay. How many of you use it professionally every day?
Yeah, all the same hands.
Good.
Yeah, absolutely.
How many of you use it personally every day?
About half.
Okay, good. I certainly use it both professionally and personally every single day. Talked about, recognizing, reading things to me and where am I and all that sort of thing, but certainly to, just do daily stuff. Now, AI is massively important. It can improve accessibility for end users. So let's talk about the end users for a sec. So if teams haven't thought about accessibility and there aren't captions on videos, then there is software, there's various models that will do video interpretation really, really well. And a lot of disabled organizations have jumped on that and are using them to automatically describe the action that's called audio description. So as a blind person, on Netflix, on terrestrial TV, it's the bit that says, so-and-so comes into the room, so-and-so shot so-and-so, they're kissing, he pushed her off the cliff, all that sort of thing. Imagine watching something, in fact, do it later. Close your eyes for a few minutes and, see how far you get, basically, with any TV or adverts. So that's what audio description is. And AI is already providing that, where you guys haven't in your video, material, your multimedia material. Ditto captions. Obviously, captions is a no-brainer, really. You probably know the difference between captions and subtitles. Captions have additional stuff about sound effects. So if you're completely deaf, you might want to hear bang in brackets, because it's or gunshot, because you're not going to know, even if it's if it's off camera, it might be important to the action. So captions have that extra bit in there as well, and AI can do that too, as well as just straightforward translation of vocabulary, dialogue. And AI can also be used to circumvent for me, the massive hassle of having to deal with inaccessible websites that I have to deal with, that I can't go elsewhere. So inaccessible buttons, you know, my screen reader, as it's called, I can just press a button, and instead of button 1 or button 3 or whatever it is, it will say that's the more options button, or that's the, you know, drop-down menu button or whatever it is, because it will use super cutting edge, probably ChatGPT-5, to ascertain what that button is and what its purpose is. Ditto with images. You know, if you guys aren't up with the program for adding alternative text to images, which hopefully you are, then it can have a fist of doing that. But it's not perfect, so it's not a kind of get out of jail free card for you guys. So, you know, it's all in the WCAG guidelines or the EN 301549. You need to do these things, but AI is stepping in to fill the gap where it's absent at the moment in so many apps and websites. Ads on any given web page where it's ad supported, there used to be 1 or 2, and now there's like 6 or 10. And you guys, if you are sighted, are lucky enough, well, they're very annoying, I'm sure they are, but you look at them for half a second and then you scroll and then you pick up the text again. For me as a blind person, that's 5, 6, 12 arrow downs to get through. There's no handy, you know, anchor tag or something or ARIA tag that I can jump past the ad. So for me, that's like whole minutes of trauma on any given web page. So I'm not going to go to that web page. You guys might have spent so many hours making that web page look super sexy, but if it ain't working for me, I'm going to ask ChatGPT to either summarize that URL, that article, or just to do a bit of research on the web about a similar topic. So yeah, I'm not going to be plowing. It's super annoying. So yeah, please don't use ads unless you have to.
Sorry, Robert, please, Johannes, jump in with a question.
Super interesting with the ads, what you just mentioned. We're forced to use ads on the website we're running, but you said something about an anchor tag. So would it help if we put, like before the ad, just put an anchor tag that sends you, or a link to an anchor tag underneath the ad? Or what's the preferred solution to deal with this? Yeah,
I mean, headings are the go-to for screen reader users. So make sure that the body, you know, the main body of your page all have an H1. So the first thing I do when a page loads is I hit H or I hit 1 and it goes to that. And if it hasn't, then I know I'm in trouble already. If you've not got headings on a page, I'm in trouble. But ideally, you know, you'd put the ads after the natural heading, that section of the page had finished. So then the next chunk of article or whatever starts with another H2 or whatever it might be. So I could just hit H each time to jump between them. But yeah, there are ARIA regions that you can use, and there are keystrokes for jumping past those. But I mean, I said I'd go away, but the first thing I'd do is hit F9 in Edge to see if the reader mode strips out the ads successfully and not half of the content. So another thing you could do is look at reader mode and see if it just strips out your ads and leaves your content, and that will be something for people to hold on to before they go away.
Thanks.
So yeah, cool. So let's talk about agentic AI. We absolutely have to do that. And this is still from the end user point of view. We'll get onto you guys in a sec and your coding and stuff. But yeah, so from an end user point of view, I talked about, you know, I just ask ChatGPT is my preferred poison to go away and just do the heavy lifting for me. But imagine if it could do the clicking for me as well. And, you know, we're there or thereabouts. We had that brief bit of excitement right at the beginning of the year with Rabbit, but that was just smoke and mirrors, wasn't it? Although they have been updating there. Do you know Rabbit R1? Some of you.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Teenage engineering, anyway, so let's not go there. But anyway, so yeah, agentic AI will happen. It's kind of happening already. It will be doing the clicking. It will be doing the form filling. It will complete transactions. And because it's, you know, smart and it's using its eyes, its virtual eyes, then it might not care about accessibility. You know, just like it can label an inaccessible button by divining, hopefully successfully, what that button's purpose is by doing, you know, OCR or image recognition on it, then similarly, it will be able to overcome inaccessibility in other controls as well. Even horrible date pickers that pop up and have, just nightmare. But anyway, so it'll be able to do all of that because it won't in effect be disabled. So yeah, agentic AI has a massive promise, but it doesn't mean that you guys get like get a pass. So as I mentioned before, it's not phew, we don't have to worry then. Those guidelines, that legal requirement, is not going anywhere, I'm sorry to say. But you guys can do stuff at your end. So how many of you use GitHub Copilot for VS Code?
Oh yeah, lots.
Yeah, okay. Do you know about the accessibility prompt that the GitHub team put on their blog? So if you search for accessibility, let's see what I would say. So it's VS Code, prompting Copilot to become your personal AI assistant for accessibility. So if you just search for expert GitHub Copilot prompt expert accessibility assistant, there is a URL, but I didn't even bother putting it up because it's not a good one.
They're all searching for it right now.
Okay,
so
good. That prompt is gold. Whack that into your GitHub when, before you leave the room, basically, into Copilot. So, and obviously there are other LLMs, other platforms as well. Some that, like Claude Code, focus more in on code. You could still use ChatGPT. How many of you actually tried? I mean, you guys know how to code, so I'm not even sure why I'm asking you this. But for lols, in your spare time, how many of you tried vibe coding?
yeah,
Just
yeah.
from start to finish.
Even a couple of days ago, we had a coding day on Wednesday, and some of the projects there they were vibe coding on some of those. So
Yeah. Now, obviously, it's like trying to do it from start to finish with as little coding as possible. But you guys are using it in a very similar way day to day, getting it to, and you can get several LLMs to check, to correct the bugs on the other ones, and they perform a lot better there. So yeah, sometimes it's worth starting a new, in quotes, conversation, because particularly with personality-driven LLMs, they go less and less off the guardrails the longer the conversation goes on, which is slightly worrying. But, and something similar has been seen in code-based LLM usage as well. But yeah, really, really powerful. There are accessibility overlays. I don't know if you've ever heard of these, like UserWay, AccessiBee,
yeah.
which claim to be the silver bullet when it comes to accessibility. So regardless of the shape that your website is in, whack this on, let people click the widget, and jobs are good. No. Absolutely not. Sorry to tell you. Don't be confused between, don't put them all in the same bucket. So there are other plugins like ReciteMe or Browse Aloud, which do certain things, and they do it well, and they add functionality. So Browse Aloud adds on hover text-to-speech for paragraphs, buttons, links, that sort of thing. The browser can't do that. Fantastic. So Browse Aloud, ReciteMe, great. The other ones, don't go there. Absolutely don't go there. Not only do they not deliver a compliant website, they can actually degrade the accessibility for screen reader users, for keyboard users. No AI can check JavaScript or inline JavaScript for accessibility and remediate it. Not even close. They might be able to help to code JavaScript, but they can't remediate it on the fly. So you absolutely can't. Don't use an accessibility overlay that promises to do the job for you, so you don't have to. And the mis-selling is definitely out there. And because of the likes of the EAA and the likes of the sexiness of AI, they're really pushing the AI angle, and they are pushing the compliance angle, so you don't have to, and they're pushing the price as well. So just do not go there. But yeah, please do have a look on there. We can help you with your apps and websites from a code compliance point of view. We can do design reviews. We can help from wireframe onwards, basically, so to make sure that things are embedded. But we would much prefer you guys to go through the DAM process. We can also help facilitate the DAM process if you want us to, but that will absolutely get you up to speed, so you don't have to outsource accessibility in any significant way, except perhaps to get a range of diverse users. So we've got 500 diverse user testers that we don't overuse. We rotate them. We don't want them to become power users. We want them to be average users. So by all means, use us for that, but definitely garner feedback from your customers about accessibility, because that's like free consultancy from your customers. Okay, they won't be able to give you the code fixes, but they'll absolutely tell you where the issues are if it's already live. If it's not, if you're big enough and you've got disabled employees, you've got a SIG, a special interest group within your organization, or ERG, employee resource group, absolutely leverage your employees, your colleagues as well. So we can help with EAA compliance as well, if that's getting you down. We absolutely can do that too. So yeah, that's it really. On the next slide is the Q&A. I've got some wrapping up comments here, but I feel like I've spoken enough. So, how are we doing for time?
We're okay for time.
We've got 10 minutes. Okay,
not a problem at all.
yeah.
So, I mean, there's lots of very interested looking faces in the room, I would say. So, but if you've got questions or comments about anything that's been discussed here, just stick your hand up and let's have a conversation about them. Yeah, go on, Johannes, go.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for the talk and the presentation. This has by far been the most technically founded accessibility talk I've ever been to. I'm really, really impressed. Thank you. And my question is regarding the way you're working with your iPhone. I'm sitting here totally fascinated on how you swipe on the iPhone. I know this doesn't have to do with the talk, but can you explain what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've taken my ear out, so it'll just be, so basically, if I,
12:51 p.m.
so I'll put it up as loud as I can.
Let me get a microphone for you, Robin, hold on.
So you're probably saying, well, the screen's not on, but that's because I'm using
Screen curtain off.
screen curtain. So I doubled my battery life right there.
Okay.
Speech off.
So
Speech on.
yeah, basically, everything that's under your finger, let's have a look.
1.
Now you might be thinking, well, why on earth has he still got a home button? I like a home button.
1.
I like to be able to unlock the phone and use it entirely in my pocket without getting it out. So shoot me. But yeah, so I'll have to go over to a Face ID at some point. But anyway, so yeah.
The carrots, sticks and Tim to do introductions.
Tim, you were supposed to do the introduction.
Yes, I failed. Sorry.
Okay. So yeah,
Mail.
I don't know if you can hear this okay.
Calendar, Friday the 26th of September. 1 new notification.
Calendar, or one new notification, I'll have to look at that.
Photos.
So I can roam around, or I can flick left and right,
Camera.
an item at a time.
Be my eyes.
So that I heard a bloop noise, so I'd go on to the second line of the icons there. Be my eyes, guys. If you in any way want to do some to give something back in the time that you've got, download the Be My Eyes app and sign up as a volunteer, a sighted volunteer. And occasionally you'll get a phone call out of the blue and somebody will say, I've dropped something, can you help me find it? Or I've got turned around, can you see any street signs around? They're using the camera on their phone or their glasses, or read this letter for me, or how many minutes left on the dishwasher, that sort of thing. You will be their remote pair of eyes for those few seconds. And there are something like 3.5 million people that are using that service. And so you guys can really make a difference. So Be My Eyes, it's free for both volunteers and for blind users like myself. So yeah, you basically just flick around and it tells you what you can do, like double tap to open. So I could double tap on Be My Eyes and it will open it up.
Unable to set up camera output.
Unable to set up camera output. I wonder if I don't know. Because I've got an SE, it takes a while to open.
Okay, button.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Take picture, button.
So I could take a picture. Let me take a picture of you guys.
Take picture.
Yeah, go on. I have taken a picture.
History, button. Take picture, button.
Maybe it's because it said there was no camera thingy.
Take picture. Take picture. Bottom of screen. Setting. Community. Service directory. Tap. Take picture. History. Get support. Tab. One of selected. Be my app.
I'll go out and in again just in case. But yeah, so
OneDrive.
as well as connecting you to a volunteer, it can also use an LLM to, a bit like we saw with my glasses, describe what's going on in the room. And that would be really useful for where is the zebra crossing, or are the lights green or red? Not necessarily relying on that. We all know that LLMs are... But as well as your ears, it might help. You might be thinking, this is never going to change. And then you realize that actually there's no bleep on this crossing and it was green all the time. So you would just reinforce the fact that you think you can hear the traffic waiting for you to cross, but you can't hear the beeps, that kind of thing. So, yeah. Any other questions?
So do you think, could you sort of point out any gold standard apps or websites? Is there anything that's really outstanding that deserves an honourable mention in the speak?
I would probably say things like LinkedIn, which I don't know how you feel about LinkedIn, but I have to use it a lot, and it's very it's very complicated. It's very transactional. It's complicated. It's a very transactional site app, very, very accessible, regardless of how much is going on on the screen there. Ironically, something like YouTube, very, very accessible, and can do auto captions and stuff like that, which is really powerful as well. So yeah, there are some horrendous ones like Ryanair. We would not ever be able to fly with Ryanair, but very, very high-profile ones. So yeah, Meta, the glasses, their web properties are really good. So Facebook's really good, Instagram's really good, stuff like that. So yeah, I don't know how sexy all of those look. I would imagine, for something like Instagram or Facebook, they're pretty well designed, but they're very, very inclusive. So yeah.
Yeah, Terry, go ahead.
How are the government websites?
Okay, so that PSBAR, the Public Sector Body's accessibility regulations, have been around a requirement for a while. So I hope, so basically you've got the EHRC, which is the Equality and Human Rights Commission. That's one arm of the government. And then you've got the CDDO, the Central Digital Data Office, can't remember, another part. And one is the policeman, and the other is the enforcer, like the auditor and the enforcer. So they together should be fining different arms of government for inaccessibility on a daily basis. So I would say public sector sites in large are better than commercial sites, but because their hearts are in the right place, they're not fully commercially driven, although budget is really, really tight for them, but they know they should do it. So generally speaking, it's better, but there's no guarantee at all that you can file your tax return or that you can pay your council tax. Central stuff is better, but local authority stuff is really patchy. And then you get brilliant companies like Jadu that do this, like a local authority website, CMS called Applause, accessible public and local authority website, something like that, which is like a toolbox, because they're all doing the same stuff, but they're all reinventing the wheel. Every local authority is doing the same basic set of things, but they all are very different. So, that kind of initiative would help a lot when people move around and it looks familiar and it's accessible. So, yeah, but they're nowhere near fully compliant, so I'm hoping they're fining themselves. But I doubt it. A really good story. In Norway, they've got a similar set of legislation. And the department there is Diffie. That's the department that's involved in enforcement. And the SAS, which is the, I think I've got the name right, that's the Norwegian sort of main airline.
Yes.
Yeah. They weren't compliant after they'd been audited by the government, and they were given a year to fix it, did nothing. They were then fined the equivalent of €10,000 a day, and they fixed it in a week. So you just need that little bit of incentive. That's why I said that the teeth, I think, is really important. The stick needs to have knobbly bits on it. It can't be just like a weak, limp thing. So yeah, that you just need the right incentive. But hopefully you guys are doing it for the brand value, for the extra customer reach and satisfaction, that sort of thing.
And so what's the future? What's the break? Are we going to find poor Hugo here replaced by a robot, or what's the future? What's the next sort of breakthrough thing that you think will be, a real game changer for accessibility across the board?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's funny you should mention Hugo. So yes, AI has got all the real-time video analysis and that sort of thing, and there is a product called the Glide. If you go to glidance.io, you can have a look, and that'll be coming out Q1 next year. And yeah, that is basically like this big set of wheels on a little kind of turny thing that you push in front of you like one of those kind of kids' lawnmowers or something. But you push it in front of you and it has cameras and it steers you around things just like so it's almost like you're being led by a guide dog.
Wow.
And
I was joking about it, Hugo. I'm sorry, Hugo.
So watch out for that. It's called the Glide from Glidance. And I think it's really important. I had a white cane for 18 months before my first guide dog. Hated it. Absolutely hated it. Every time you do this, you catch it in something, you get an extra belly button. Because you're walking forward, it's not because it's caught in something. Or you have to clang against benches and railings or people, sorry. And nobody talks to you. It's like, look at that poor blind guy. But as soon as I got him, massively easy. Sometimes I've switched off so much, we're there at a final destination, and oh, we're here already, kind of thing. It's effortless. And from a social point of view, I mean, Judith, who's brought me here today, came up to me because of my guide dog. And, you know, got 2 gorgeous children. So anyway, technology's brilliant, but also guide dogs are as well. But yeah, in the world, 35,000 guide dogs in the whole world. And, you know, there are like millions of blind people in the UK. So far, far, far more than, so it's not a guide dog for you and a guide dog for you. There's a waiting list, it's really, really expensive. The guide dogs lost 60 million in the .com crash and have never really recovered. So yeah, really tight for cash. So this glide at $1,500, okay, it's not going to be affordable by everyone, but just think, it's absolutely amazing. And you would just train it with all of the, because the guide dogs have a lot of rules about hugging, you know, like shorelining, building lines, and going around things, and knowing when to stop when they're uncertain about, you know, is this a barrier and there's like a big massive hole behind it, or maybe someone's taken the barrier away and there's just the hole, you know, stuff like that. This will know all of that as well because it's had lots and lots of testing and you can watch lots of videos on it. So yeah, that might actually happen. Yeah. Or some people are saying, well, let's forget the whole steery thing. Let's just, you know, leverage. And Meta, I don't know if you watched their event a couple of weeks ago, have opened an SDK. So if you guys want to do something in your spare time, there's a SDK for the Meta glasses, the Ray-Bans, the Oakleys, and the new Meta displays with the screen, with the waveguide screen. I don't know if you have a look at those. So yeah, you can build visuals into it as well. But imagine being able to leverage all of the sensors in these smart glasses, but for something that would actually help a lot of people, not just for, you know, something, I don't know, sexy or fun. Imagine doing it in a way that would impact people. So we've never lived in such a good time, such an impactful time when it comes to AI, yeah, LLMs, and smart technology. Yeah.
Fantastic. Any more comments or questions? Stunned silence from the room. So I will just wrap up then in that case with a huge thank you to Robin for coming today.